Welcome to Alexandrians with Diane Karim, where I interview authors, both living and dead ones, to the power of AI. Today's guest is Anita Angelica Moore, a serial entrepreneur, tech influencer, and visionary in the truest sense. As the founder of Blind Boxes and the cryptocurrency Bless, she brought creativity and discovery to Web3. Now, as co-founder of Micro Clinic, she's addressing one of the world's most overlooked health problems, mold illness, which affects millions of people. Anita has been a dear friend and advisor for me for many years, and I can say from the bottom of my heart that she is one of the finest founders of our entire generation, a true unicorn in all senses. In our conversation today, it's a little bit like a leadership masterclass. We talk about the true role of a CEO, how to stay calm and creative in moments of crisis, what advisors every founder actually needs, and why it's not a good idea to call your family members in times of trouble, how to pitch in a way that earns belief, and how she is right now confronting a global health challenge that is affecting hundreds of millions of people without losing her cool. Enjoy this episode, and if it resonates with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with 3 people from your tribe. Welcome on the show.
Good to be here.
First question is, what is it currently like to be you? We spoke a couple of minutes earlier about that you're the most high energy person I know. It's Berlin, it's like nearly midnight here, and your day isn't even over. You're going to Amsterdam in the same night. It's like, give us, what is it like currently to be in your shoes?
It's good. I'm in a place where there's so much opportunity around me, so much potential energy, so much going on that I feel like I'm in flow with life.
Where did that? In Germany, we have a beautiful word that I can't pronounce called Quelle. I think spring, so to say, right? Like where a river starts. Mm-hmm. If you would say a starting point for your journey, which one would you choose? Where do you feel Anita's story began?
I'd say probably growing up in New York City, just formulating my views on the world by being in such an international and cosmopolitan place and being exposed to so many different types of people, so many demographics. It sparked this curiosity in me to explore the world and to build things. I think it started, maybe as a teenager in New York City.
If you would teach somebody who's always dreamed, actually, like my mother was in New York once and fell in love there, and ever since, like the place I grew up in has New York posters and books and everywhere in a way. What do you feel is something that's so special about the place where you grew up?
I think that it's such a hub for so many different cultures, combined with the natural energy that it has. As soon as you land in New York, no matter who you are, you get this rev up feeling like I gotta get something done. It feels like the place where it feels like there's tons of opportunity and there really is opportunity. So there's no sleepiness in New York, Yeah.
So that's where your nonstop energy.
Yeah, the energy is in the ground. It's around you. It's every person you meet, from the bathroom attendant to some, very successful business person in any category, to someone who's aspiring to be, like, the whole spectrum of people are there, and New York brings it out.
What was your first welcome to New York moment, so to say, looking retrospectively? Or is this something only that happens to tourists?
No, it happens to me every time I'm away for a bit and I come back. So during COVID, I spent extended period living in Berlin and didn't return to New York City for about 2 years. And then when I first came back, I felt the contrast and the energy as soon as I landed. So that felt like a big welcome back moment. But whenever I'm away for any amount of time and I touch down and I see the skyline and I'm back, I feel it.
Yeah, you gave me a little bit of a speech before that I should make the city a home for me. And one of the things I should do is get a bike. And yes. I think one of the things that is memorable about you is that you bike in every city that you are, and you have multiple bikes in different metropolitan cities. What's your relationship with bicycling?
I love biking. I'm a big bike proponent. I mean, I'm not going to get into like the environmental aspects, but I think cities run better when they have good bike infrastructure. It gives far more options for people, for anybody, right? Because anyone can get around without the thought of cost or having a vehicle. More people biking means fewer cars in the street, just better vibes. So yeah, I'm a big bike person. I have bikes in so many cities. I buy like inexpensive bikes and I'll leave them at friends' places. I have a bike in Berlin and Copenhagen and Stockholm. And whenever I have a bike somewhere, I feel like it's a home. So.
Yeah, and there's a funny bike movie from New York, short movie from Casey Neistat. Have you watched it?
No.
Called Bike Lines.
No,
I think there was a famous incident where he got a ticket for. He's the father of vlogging, I think.
Yeah.
You know, and he made this video about the New York's inability to accommodate bike rides, and there's like stupid laws, and he got a ticket for it. And then he made a video where, on purpose, because they told him to stay in the bike line, and he went on purpose into every obstacle, from car to pedestrian to police officer at the end. And it was a very viral video, actually, in a way.
Bike lanes there's so much going on in bike lanes in New York City. It's still, we have a long way to go. I think post-COVID, there's been a lot more infrastructure built, but the potholes, the police, it's oftentimes just police cars parked there, which is annoying. There's a lot going on in bike lanes in New York City.
What is one vivid memory where you feel like your educational journey really begin? Because one of the things I'm fascinated by is you're like, I call you usually unicorn, and I feel like it's very fitting for how different you are in regards to what you think and the ventures you undertake. Mm-hmm. Where did your educational journey begin, so to say?
In New York, and I'd say I went to a very interesting high school. It was a magnet school for all of New York City, and it had amazing resources, Brooklyn Tech High School. And I mentioned that it was for all 5 boroughs because we really had so many different, it was so diverse, the types, socioeconomic, racial backgrounds, it was just so diverse because it's a slice of all of the different boroughs of New York City. And everyone went there was very serious about academics. And that's somewhere where they encourage you to think about the future. It's just my high school was just a great high school. And so back then I was studying medicine, but whatever I wanted to study, I could really get a world-class education at a public school in New York City, surrounded by people from all over the city. So I think I'd say high school is where I got my really firm footing.
You wear a lot of colors. When you think back of, which is funny because Berlin has a weird trend where we celebrate our individuality by apparently all dressing the same for guys in black, which is,
I guess so,
which is a weird trend. When you think of the word colorful, what is an earliest iteration of you that comes to your mind where you discovered your individuality, so to say? What was the first moment where you developed, not peacocking, but like developed the courage to be colorful?
Oh, I've always just been. It's the only way I know to be. So probably early childhood. Yeah.
Any outfit that comes to mind when you think of?
Okay, so I was very into the skater phase when I was.
No way. Hey, me too.
Yeah. So I'd wear these like huge Jinko jeans, was the brand, and like really, really wide jeans. And then I'd wear like tight t-shirts, typically with like anime characters on it. And I had one t-shirt that I wore like so many years in a row, but it was an anime face, but the shirt was a scratch and sniff shirt. Okay, so the shirt, if you scratch the hair, the blonde hair of the anime character, it smelled like lemon, but for like years. I don't know what was up with that shirt. I've never seen a scratch and sniff shirt again. That shirt was dope. I wore that outfit often, like just big jeans with that shirt, like a big portion of my teenage years was that shirt. It was very bright. It was like bright purple. I need to find that shirt. I hope I still have it somewhere. That was a good shirt. So I had a scratch and sniff blue and purple and yellow shirt. Dope.
What were your dreams growing up?
So I was very interested in medicine. And I always loved this idea of helping people and changing the world through medicine. And so that's always been a dream. And so that's why I studied biomedical engineering and I've gone through many different iterations in the healthcare space. But it was always a dream to help the world and people around me leveraging technology. And so that's why I had this decision point when I was going between high school and college of whether just to go study more medicine, just medicine, or I discovered biomedical engineering, which is the intersection of medicine and technology. And that's when I realized I'm also not just interested in medicine and helping and things like that, but I'm also quite interested in tech and gadgets and things like that, and inventing things. So biomedical engineering is the intersection of that, and that really drew me.
Gadget Girl is another name
Yeah.
that fits you well. I'm always asking you for what's the latest stuff you have.
Yes.
If we would open your backpack right now, what are the three gadgets that you love the most, so to say?
So many different battery packs, many different types of cameras. Uh,
Why battery packs?
It's actually for other people because with batteries, often we're all living in an electronic world, and we often are relying on our technology. And when you don't have battery, then you lose the workings of it. So no matter, even in my purse, I'll always have a small battery pack, if not just for me, but for friends. Because if your friend's phone is dead, then they're inconvenienced. So like I always have the power. So there will always be power in my bag, multiple types of power for other people, for my friends, for just things like that. So I've always got like power packs.
Yeah, it's because I feel like you're a little bit of a, you know, Sarah Connor from Terminator.
Yeah.
One of my favorite female characters ever on screen.
Oh yeah.
I love the fusion between this very feminine character, but who's like actually engaged in saving the world somehow. When did you discover like or why do you feel you're such a responsible part of whatever community you're into? Because there's always some people who, how do I put it, who don't prep, and those who.
I love to prep. Maybe it comes down to I enjoy hosting, right? And so to be a host, you have to be prepared in some ways, and you can't be prepared for everything, but you can be prepared with the basics. And so I'll always, you mentioned gadgets, I'll always have like a special mood light in my bag as well if I'm going to go somewhere social or almost anywhere, because if you might be in a situation where suddenly you're hosting, whether it's a conference room or an after party or just somewhere, and if you can be the person that provides either the music, right, or the lighting, now you're hosting, you're creating an environment. So, and then the battery pack it's more of even a safety thing, right? If someone, oftentimes you need power for things. So yeah, I like having the tools to facilitate a good vibe environment.
He listened to a clip on YouTube today from Louis C.K. and he mentioned a story where he was on Dave Chappelle's party, and it was like lots of interesting people on stage, like very diverse music. And at one point he was a little high, but he went in the middle of the crowd, made some space, and then he got a little girl who was also there to perform inside of that little circle to dance, and everybody was cheering on in a way. And then he went back on the corner and just kind of like enjoyed the experience he was giving everybody. If you would write a little ebook on how to be a host,
Yeah.
what would be in it? Because I feel like the art of creating a ceremony is something that is super important in the entrepreneurial sector. And there's like some people who are guests by temperament, and other people who give this thing.
I think setting matters, and the most basic thing you can do if you're having a setting where you're hosting people, whether it's formal or informal, is to have great lighting. Lighting changes anything, right? What is a nightclub but a room with good lighting and good music, right? So I would say first, lighting is the most basic thing that you can do. Like bright, fluorescent, cold lighting first of all makes everyone look not as good. It makes everyone feel not as good, right? But then if you can imagine some warm, inviting lighting, everyone looks better. Then they feel more confident. So lighting is important. So if you can control one thing, that's control lighting. So if ever I'm with friends and we go to like an Airbnb or a new space, I will, or even myself and my friends will immediately go jigger the lights. Like, what do we need to do to make these lights warmer and darker and better? And then sound, if you can. If you're really hosting people, having some ambient playlist in the background, like a playlist also is important, not some tracks on Spotify. Okay. Cool,
So,
cool, cool.
good.
I think so. Yes.
So we were just speaking about if you would write a little ebook on how to be a great host and do a party or something. Um, and we mentioned the word playlist.
Mhm.
What's the secret to a dope playlist? If you would give me like a crash course on how to be the coolest kid at the party.
I think you definitely just, it has to be a continuous, I would say DJ sets over playlists, because a playlist is just going to have song after song after song. Just DJs are great at mixing and selecting. Find DJs that you enjoy, and they're curating it for you. Don't try to make your own play. I mean, you can, but why not just go to a person who spent the time? And usually a DJ set will be continuous. So I'm all about like a SoundCloud DJ mix versus a playlist. You want your playlist to not be distracting if it's going to be ambient for your setting. And yeah, just you're just creating a soundscape that is going to allow energy to flow.
Mhm. Interesting. How do you balance these two parts of you? Because I feel like you are like a little bit like a business hippie, or so to say, in a way,
A business hippie.
a business hippie, where it's like on the one side you're like one of the most powerful entrepreneurs I've ever met, and I was very fortunate to receive advice in times of my earliest ventures.
Mhm.
And but you're also somewhat like the person who I feel has the most fun,
Okay.
which is strange. Like, how do you feel like these two parts form for yourself?
I don't think they're separate. I think they're one and the same. It's
Interesting.
about being full. Once you're fully present, then you can really enjoy things, right? And once another thing to think about is when you're in an environment, whether think about whether you're there as a guest or as a curator. And even if I'm at an event that's supposed to be fun, I realize that my disposition is part of how everyone else experiences things. So I'm always remembering to be quite present and aware that the way I'm presenting also affects everyone else, even if I'm not actively hosting an event. Um, the entrepreneurial side, it flows the same way. You know, every opportunity that every conversation you have is an opportunity for sharing. Um, I don't think they're separate. I don't find it to be separate.
You went to one of the most prestigious universities in the whole world.
Mhm.
Can you tell us about that chapter?
So for undergraduate, I attended Columbia, which is world class, and I believe that it was the right place for me in terms of being in New York City, having this amazing kinetic energy, but then also having this great container of just world class education and people around me doing the same thing. Um, Same thing for Yale. Different energy being in New Haven, but the business school there was unmatched. It's just amazing. Um, they're amazing. I mean, I don't have the comparison point. So to me, these are just the places I went. So I couldn't compare them to other places, but I really grew and flourished in both of those environments.
What did Yale teach you about life or business?
Mm. So there is a very strong current of accountability and awareness of your environment that is embedded in the business school program there. So the, there's something about the way I'm forgetting our sort of slogan, but there has something to do with business and society. So the idea is it's not just about business; it's how you are playing into society, and that permeates in the way that we do everything that I've done since then. There's this context of the business aspect. Is it profitable, the opportunities, et cetera? But then also, how is it affecting society? There's always this broad bird's eye view that comes into play there.
What was the most powerful skill you learned there?
Hmm. I'd say problem solving under pressure. Similar to many business schools, a lot of our projects are time sensitive. You don't have enough time to do the thing that you think you're going to do. You're thrown into new teams like all the time. And I realize I flourish in that environment. If you say 20 minutes, solve this problem with 5 people, I love the creativity of working with constraints. And I believe it gave me this skill set and confidence to deal with uncertainty and constraints, and just knowing there's always a solution. And this can be a big thing, a small thing, a social thing, but if you have a certain amount of time and a certain amount of sources, there's always a way to get it done. It's just your idea. It's just your job to figure it out. Whereas before business school, before that training, I might have, there's a giving up or whatever, throwing your hands up. But being put in that situation over and over again in a class setting means that in the real world, when there's a crisis, big or small, or a task, big or small, you just get it done. You figure out how to get it done.
Most pressure you were ever under?
And
For you personally, it doesn't mean like from any kind of perspective that makes sense to another person, but was meaning like in regards to your own story, what do you feel was the moment where you were tested?
in school or
In general in your life?
there are a lot of there's a lot of testing being done on me personally and from my business acumen with my company Blind Boxes. You know, it's in the crypto space, and it's just the crypto moves so quickly. There's so many different layers and so many different stakeholders and so much immediacy, especially as we launched during the NFT bubble. So we were launching during a bubble, so everything had to be done immediately. And so managing so many different stakeholders and such a time sensitive and so many different, everything was remote because it was during COVID. That whole time period of launching the company in the first year was a very big trial for me.
Yeah, and I remember how well you were handling that, and it's one of the things that I found interesting is that there was a new technology that emerged that really people didn't know what to do with it in a way. So I feel like there was extra pressure.
Yeah, there was no playbook. I mean, so much
Yeah.
of crypto, especially in 2021 and before, and even now, there's no playbook for it because a lot of it is just so new. And then there's also, with any frontier technology, there's a lot of scamming and grifting that happens in general because people are still trying to understand the space and insulating your company. And there's so many different, there's extra that you need to do to build trust with your community. Who can you trust? Yeah, there's a lot complexity.
Yeah, trust is one of those. I feel betrayal as a business owner, or even like as a mature person, is one of those initiating parts of life where some of the naivety of yourself dies, and you're somewhat being born in a way. It's like you, for instance, were a great advisor when the project that I was working on 3 years ago, like I gave all my money to this guy and he scammed me pretty much, and I was like stuck in the other part of the world without technology or a co-founder or money in a way. And that was like my welcome to the world. How do you, if you would write a standard operating procedure for every leader who experienced true betrayal or like a breach of trust from somebody, they put a lot of what advice would you give them, or how would you walk them through?
Gosh, I mean, you really have to assess the situation unemotionally, and that's the thing, because especially when you're working with someone as a co-founder or in any capacity, there's also, if there's a betrayal, I think I would almost even say that's the wrong way to be phrasing it, because in the end, what matters is the business, not necessarily your feelings about what happened. So I would first say, try to remove the don't take it personally. This is the thing. Even though it feels personal, because when you take it personally, then you start to react in a way that's probably not best for the business. You're acting emotionally. So I would say there's definitely don't take it personally. Triage what needs to be done. Triage whether or not there is still a risk, right? Have you closed the leak, right? Or are you being emotional because there is a leak? So first make sure that your business is sound and the things that are important are sound, and then move forward in a way that's best for the business. Take yourself out of it. Take the emotions of yourself out of it, whether that person's a friend or not. Like, put that all aside and focus on problem solving. Because if you're emotional, you're not going to solve the problem well. And that's when you need to be a leader the most, is when you have turmoil. And the best leaders, I don't think the best leaders are able to, I don't know about compartmentalize, but are able to separate their emotions from the task at hand.
Very well said. I feel like when you say betrayal is usually a word that comes from almost like if you have a projection of love or family kind of setting onto somebody. And for me, why it really hurt, I feel, was because I had this idea of like almost like brothers in arms, like taking over the world. And I think that's how I reacted in those kind of situations. But if you have a little bit more professional and distance and a little bit more cold, then that may be more solving. What's your take on this? Like, how close should you get with co-founders, business partners, investors? Because it always think of I read the quote, I think it was Nicola Machiavelli who said, leaders have only allies and enemies. And it's like there's an emphasis of the old philosophers in particular, that if you're in a leadership position, you should not mix like personal life with these kind of things. What's your take on that?
It's difficult because normally I would say yes, right? But I think you can, if you can separate your friendship, it's probably best not to go in. With all that said, anything I would say is moot anyway, because we are human. If you can avoid, I would say I would never personally want to go into a business with a lover. Like, it's just, I've seen so many people, it just seems like the absolute worst way to do it because it's so loaded and there's so much extra on it. Even friends, it becomes a bit difficult, but the category of friends is broad. So I just definitely do not go into business with a lover, no matter how great you think that makes sense. It just does not make sense. Do not do that. But if you're able to compartmentalize, and then maybe friends, but yeah.
Little location change due to technical issues with my camera. And yeah, where were we? So could you pinpoint to a defining moment that gave you some superpowers? And what do you think is one of your superpowers?
So I would say that creativity and calm under pressure would be one of my superpowers. And
Like this very situation, like
yeah, just this ability to just when things are really at their worst, to really like become a like really put the emotions down, solve the problems, remain positive, really, especially if there are other people around you, like just positive but not delusional, and being able to be creative in that way. And one situation where I can think of that where that came out was when, with my company Blind Boxes, we had a major issue with a hacker basically hacked in during one of our major NFT sales. And it was a lot going on because everything going on was very visible because it's on the blockchain. Everything in crypto is time sensitive, and it's just really aggressive, I would say. And so we had to do communication real time immediately, like faster than you would ever imagine for a regular tech. Also trying to understand what the issue was, because our digital goods were being stolen. So fixing that, and then coming up with the solution as soon as quick as possible. And so after handling all of the sort of leaks, I came up with this idea of conducting a physical form of this digital sale in a way that met all the requirements of the blockchain. And so it had to be, our platform had a big element of randomization, which is part of our selling point, and gamification. And so long story short, I decided to represent the randomization in the physical world, because I realized that we couldn't figure out what was wrong with the system fast enough to suit the needs of our clients in a way that would make sense. So I conducted a physical analog of the digital sale in a way, and I filmed it, I live streamed it, because it was all about time sensitivity. And in crypto, there's this whole thing with trusting and verifying. And anything I did that would allow for mistrust to happen would be an issue. So I streamed real time, and I bought this gumball machine actually, and had a physical gumball machine, and each ball in the machine was a ping pong representing the specific assets. And it was a high ticket value. It was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars in terms of total value. But all the requirements that were needed to satisfy our clientele were met in this sort of makeshift solution that was creative and somewhat fun, but it was the only way I can think of to really get it done in the time frame. And so there was creativity involved. There was quick moving. There's plenty of opportunity for me to be emotional. I was getting threats from the community. Like, it was a lot of emotions were high. I was disappointed because it was one of our larger sales. Many things had gone on, but I was able to really compartmentalize all these human emotions I had and just focus on getting the solution done. And then having to perform a bit in terms of like actually conducting the sale and just giving the community confidence that I was there.
So instead of panicking, you almost played a little bit and found a solution on how to move
Yeah.
onwards. Interesting. And what not to do in a crisis?
Yeah, I think getting caught up in one's emotions is the worst thing to do, because if you're a leader of a company or a venture or an organization, again, you are human, but if you spend time outwardly wallowing in your emotions, you're going to miss the solution that's in front of you, and or you're going to act irrationally. So really being able to step away from your emotions and move tactically forward is the most important thing, and it's hard. So what I usually do is, if it's something that's truly intense, I'll put a time frame on it. I usually say an hour. I say, okay, I have, depending on if I have that time, but give myself a certain amount of time to just get the emotions out separately, privately, do the emotional thing, whatever that, if it's being angry, don't involve anybody else, don't text anybody, like just take that time and get the emotional part out and then put a pin in it. Like, you don't have to be done with the emotions, but like then move on from it and then come back to it later, because no one makes great decisions under emotional duress.
I was writing a book series called the Anxiety Therapist a while ago. It was called Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, and I worked hundreds of people during this time who were suffering from rumination. And one of the things that was very interesting to me was that people, when they don't put a time limit in regards to when they want to be done with something, it just goes on forever.
Yeah.
And it becomes a loop. And I've met people who mourned their last dating partner for years. I've met people who had the same thought coming over and over and over again, like an alarm clock in a way. So I think this is great advice. I think I need to ask, what is the fucking task of an actual CEO? I think you're a great leader. What is, if you would write like a manuscript on this is your, because it feels to me that when you're a founder, you're somewhat strange in the beginning. You're like more like an artist, where you have a vision that you're following. But later on, like when you actually have the company, it feels that this is changing a little bit in a way. What do you feel is your description of this job? And
of course, I'd say it definitely varies per industry and what kind of co-founder or team you have going. But to be really broad about it, you're the North Star for the ship that is your venture. And so you are we'll say the captain. Yeah, I think captain's a good way. And captain, you can be a captain of a ship that has no one on it or has lots of people on it, but your job is to get the ship and all the stakeholders to where you need to be. And you're, in the beginning, you're building the ship, right? And you're convincing people to help you build the ship, whether it's financially or with their time. And then when the ship is on the water, continue with the analogy, you're steering the ship in the direction that makes the most sense for everyone there. And then when you encounter turbulence in the water, you're steering it through crisis. So it's the best analogy would be like you're the captain of a ship. And the ship is going to go through many iterations, but your job is always to guide it through to the best way for everyone, all the stakeholders.
who helped you to become a great CEO?
It's difficult because I don't think there's any formal training that exists. It's such a I think the biggest influences for me would be other people in my cohort, in terms of other startup founders doing different things, but other people who I can learn from in terms of their disposition and what they've done. Like, I wouldn't say I compare myself to some of the great massive CEOs. I think of people who are just on the level of where I am at that point of my journey, and just watching how they conduct themselves. But there's really no analog, because every CEO co-founder job is so different. So
I think
and there's no book that can teach you it.
I think you're great at what you're doing, and I've been also noticed because I've been very worse at what what I was doing, so to say. And speaking of the ship analogy, what do you do if you go shipwreck? Like, what is the procedure for this? Because for me, in the last 3 years, I've companies fell apart, co-founders left, bankruptcy, starting again, losing everything, starting. What do you do when you are the captain on the ship and you see, I won't be able to fix the leak and we are going down? How do you bounce back from that? And what is maybe like a little, if you would throw some advice into a bottle and for the person who's maybe swimming or already at the bottom of the ocean?
Well, that's something in the phrasing of your question hits the ear differently for me because at first you ask, what do you do if you're done, if the venture can't move forward anymore? How do you move forward? It's, can the venture move forward, or can, like, I guess maybe this is my like New York mindset or something like that, but I don't think it's ever over. Like if it's really over, then it's over. But if it's not over, you have to, like, is it over? Is it not over? Just because you have, I don't know. That it's really so specific to your situation, but bankruptcy, you know, all these things can happen, but can you continue the venture? Should you? It's more about should you continue the venture. There's always a way to resuscitate something if you should, but you should be evaluating all of the time, even when you're seemingly successful. Should you continue the venture? But it's not over until it's over, and that's, you have to decide, is it over?
Yeah.
But
One advice I wish I would have gotten is that great things not always happen on the first attempt.
yeah,
This is also true. Like nobody told me this. Like I was like when my first it was called, like when this didn't work on the first two attempts, I just felt like such a failure. And then I somehow had this illusion that for companies it had to work, and when it's over in a way. Like who taught you, or what is your personal definition for resilience, which I feel for me personally is the act of withstanding loss and getting back up again in a way.
yeah, you do it. That the definition is, it's, I don't know what the definition of resilience is, but well, the definition of resilience is continuing even when it's not good anymore. So that's so yeah. So if you are resilient, be resilient is the answer. If you want to be a founder, you must be resilient because failure is completely a part of it. If you succeed in the first time, then what you're doing is probably not difficult enough or important. You're not biting off enough. Or you just got very lucky, in which case you should be wary of that because luck doesn't always last. So if you're not failing, you're not tackling a big enough problem, or you're very lucky. So be resilient. That's the answer. Just be resilient. If you want to do big things, because you're going to encounter roadblocks. So just be resilient.
Sun Tzu once said that an isolated kingdom is a vulnerable kingdom, like the author of the book, I think the Art of War. You're one of the best networkers and forgers of alliances that I've ever met. Whenever I'm talking to you, I'm like, yeah, I know somebody, and that person knows somebody, and then I feel like you are able to become almost like this master of the strange, where normal barriers don't apply to you anymore because you know so many people who work at the door, whether it's
Yeah.
a festival or at the Garda community. How do you learn that, and what is your philosophy on relationship building?
I think having a genuine interest for every person you encounter, and it really, because we all have biases, we all have aspirations and things that we're trying to do in a setting, but every person you meet is an opportunity in some capacity, even if, like, and I think that so many people, and I catch myself as well, you might prejudge someone, you might think that they're just XYZ, or just don't do that as much. And if you catch yourself prejudging someone, stop that, because that's when you miss opportunities. So every person that I speak to, as much as possible in any capacity, whether it's in a formal networking setting or if it's just someone opening a door for me, I see it as an opportunity, as a learning experience. And when you go in with that curiosity, people are receptive to that genuine curiosity. Not, and human beings were very good at detecting the undercurrents. So you repel people when it seems like you're opportunistically trying to get to know them. That's not good. Early in after college, I spent some time doing film and television, and I was interviewing rappers and celebrities just as a pivot. And I think one reason why I was good at that is because I never, this idea of being starstruck, or it just wasn't part of my vocabulary. And people were more receptive to that because I was just genuinely interested in who they were. And if you can cultivate that same genuine interest in whatever setting, whether the camera's on you, whether you're just wandering around, then people will be more interested in you, and then things just flow from there.
Yeah, it's there's one of the stories I like is, I think it's about one of the greatest seducers of all time, and who was his name? But it was, the story goes in a way where there were like two people at the dining table, and one of them was very, very successful, and the woman on his right left the feeling that he was the smartest man in the world. And the seducer sat on the other side, and she left the feeling that she was the most interesting person. And there was like this idea that if you want to be, if you want to gain interest, be interested in other people in a way, you know.
Exactly.
And it's for me a great relief, for instance, that like you can just ask other people and questions, and don't have to make it all about you at the same time. For me, like that's interesting. For instance, narcissism, the measurement of anxiety, is impossible to differentiate from thinking about yourself. So the more you think about yourself, the more anxious you become.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is like also what you picked up earlier on the idea of like if you make it about you as a leader, you lose your cool. You've done an awful lot of interviews in your life. Like what is something that when you were interviewing those rappers and celebrities that you learned about successful people back then? Or what do you think was meaningful about to you to this venture?
Interesting. I think if I go back to that time of interviewing, we'll say celebrities, having a genuine passion for what they're doing in a way that they weren't just clocking it in, right? So many people who have, we'll say, more traditional jobs, you might hear them mention that they're just doing this for something else. And the people that I met in that arena, there's difficulty in whatever they were doing. These people were musicians, but they were doing it because it's their passion. So I can't say that being passionate about what you do is necessary. I would say probably being truly passionate about what you're doing is necessary to excel, right? And it seems like a simple thing to say, but there are many things that a talented person can do with their life. And you might be good at one thing and you might make a lot of money doing that, but if you really want to change the world or do something next level, your actual genuine passion has to be there, because the passion is what's going to get you over the hump when there's friction. And when there's friction, there's opportunity for something bigger. If there's no friction, great. You might be amassing wealth or whatever you're doing, but you're not changing much and you're not elevating. But if you're encountering friction, there's a high probability that if you break through that friction, you're going to be doing something great. Not always, but you're in the right direction if there's friction.
In one of my previous podcast guests, David Vertiger, I just talked to you about him. He was advising ultra high net worth individuals who often had very successful business, and he said one of the things that he found that is really duration that is one of the predictors of business success. Where it's like if you can survive long enough, you will win the game, so to say. And like for me, for instance, I've been doing psychology 20 years because I love it so much in a way. And I feel like it gets you just have these asymmetric gains when your network and your skills compound after a while. And many of my co-founders who just wanted to have the equity, they just dropped because they never figured out like what this thing is. And it just feels, it's very lonely in regards to competition when you're doing something for more than 10 years. And any advice for people who want to find their thing?
Finding your passion, that's a big question. You have to do the work. I mean, I wouldn't say there's one specific answer to that. Having quiet time alone. I do a lot of thinking when I'm biking, meditating, but like kind of getting somewhere where you can clear the noise out is important. Speaking to other people who are on the same journey. But I don't know. I couldn't give you a clue on how to find your passion, actually.
It's very funny that you say this because for me, you're the most traveled person I know. It's like whenever you make my life sometimes very boring when I'm speaking to you. It's like I'm there and there and there and there, and I see those pictures and like, what has traveling did to you in regards to expanding your horizon? Because for me, like when you're on an airplane or on a train or going somewhere, I think it always gives you the ability to look at the previous iteration of yourself in that particular city and observe what do you like about that person, what do you change, and who do you not want to return to being in a way. What did traveling do to you in regards to your own discovery of yourself and the world in contrast?
Perspective. I think it's difficult to see the water when you're sitting in it. And so when you're able to put yourself in different environments, you can then understand your initial environment better and yourself in that environment. Another thing about traveling is it also just exposes me to even more different types of people. You know, no matter where you live, you're always going to be, there's a bit of a bias towards XYZ. Putting myself in so many different scenarios internationally and really digging in, trying to get away from this sort of very similar path that maybe someone of my demographic would be, just gives me that perspective on myself. And it helps me recognize what I love about my initial environment, what's missing, and gives me an idea of the opportunities that are out there. And again, speaking with people with genuine interest, then they can tell me about things I didn't know about. So just broadens and broadens and broadens their horizons.
Hold on, I want to turn the light back on back then. So we have that beautiful.
Oh, it's back.
It's back. We don't even cut that out. Okay. What name would you give this current chapter of your life, Anita?
It's a building phase. Still building. Always building.
Always building.
Yeah.
What's your relationship with learning? Like when I met you today, you were saying, one moment, Daniel, I need to finish this Duolingo exercise. How long is your Duolingo streak?
Gosh, I think I'm definitely up to like 1,658 days, give or take, exactly, of doing Duolingo, which I enjoy. I try to learn something new each day, and Duolingo is a very simple way, but then it's vocabulary in that I'm learning. But I also I enjoy podcasts. Like I try to learn something new each day that is interesting, whether it's directly relevant to the business or just more of a self-enrichment thing. Yeah.
What has, you mentioned earlier that you were on Burning Man. What has Burning Man taught you about community and world building?
Oh, wow. I mean, it is all about community and world building in a way that once you're there, you can understand it, but everything that exists was built by you or someone you know, or it's people. It's not, there's no worker that comes in that does it. You are the workers. So it has taught me that the limits, there is no limit to what humans can do if given constraints. It's also taught me so much about showing up, because oftentimes there are many different emotions swirling, there's problem solving happening all the time, but your demeanor affects everyone else around you as well. So again, like going back to this leadership question of being emotional, like we all have our feelings and emotions, but if you bring that to the group, now it's in the group, right? Alternatively, if you bring this, for me, it's positivity and momentum. That was always my thing. At the Burn this year, there was a lot of environmental elements and things that are going on. And of course, I could complain. I could be.
So people who don't know, there was a big storm this year.
There's a massive storm, and our camp blew away, and it was like physically strenuous. And I could have shown up so many different ways, but I showed up with first, not force, but I placed it on myself, and then I embodied this positive vibe. I'm bringing the positive vibe, not forcing it, but I'd always come into the room with music as we were rebuilding, because our morale did drop because our whole world blew up twice in a row. And so morale was like shaky. And of course I was with experienced burners, so everyone was fine, but I was like, how can I contribute besides actually helping and I was bringing the vibe. So bringing a nice chill vibe with music, and then my demeanor, and just like, casually trying to bring it up. That was my contribution. And we don't realize that we can also do that. So in addition to actually hammering and nailing, if you can bring a vibe, right? And of course, again, your vibe can be pissed off, and then now you're spreading pissed off vibes, and great, now everyone's pissed off. Or you can try to bring a little bit of positivity. And if that positivity rubs off, and next thing you know, we're all positively working on something. Like, isn't that nicer? Because in the end, with Burning Man and a lot of other things, the job needs to be done anyway, right? So no matter how you feel about the situation, you need to rebuild your camp. You need to put out the fire regardless. Like, there's no one else that's going to come save it. So would you like to rebuild the house with everyone being cranky and annoyed or quiet? Or do you want to rebuild it with the best positive vibe as possible, no matter how many times you want to do it, right? Like, so that's your choice. So you always how about this? I'll say the takeaway that I learned is you always have a choice in the way you show up, no matter what the situation is, whether it's business, Burning Man, some squabble with friends. Like, you do have a choice. You can't necessarily have a choice on the scenario, but you do have a choice in how you show up. And sometimes it takes a minute for you to say, okay, let me just rephrase it in my head. So for the next 2 hours, I can outwardly be positive. Why? Because if I'm outwardly positive, it's going to make everyone else around me positive, and we're going to have a better outcome.
Do you feel this is something gender specific in regards to leadership styles? Because like, I come from competitive sports, and it was leadership styles for us were very different in regards to who was the best player on the team, often in a way. So it's like, I'm a very competitive person. I have a lot of anger in me, so to say. And it resonated really with a couple of people where we were like the toughest team on the playground, so to say. But with others, it did not work at all in a way. What do you feel in regards to your leadership style that is more driven by a more tight climate in a way?
So I wouldn't say, I can't really speak upon it being gender specific. I haven't really thought about that per se. Probably, yes. But I mean, there's a room for being aggressive, I think, maybe. But if being in a business setting, is that going to be the whole point of however you're choosing to lead is you need to get the best out of the people around you. Yeah. So it's more about if that style works for your team, if your team is maybe all men or whatever, just if they're all in that disposition and that's what's going to work, sure. But I would say don't go into a situation with your leadership style, like be adaptable with it and understand who the stakeholders are. And it's going to change whether you're dealing with your co-founders, your new employees, your customers. Like, you have to be able to adapt to what's going to get the best out of them.
Yeah, it's had a very funny situation. It was a couple of days ago, and I sometimes curse, and it's got like a big sailor's mouth, I feel. And I was in a conversation with my developer. Shout out to Bilal, you're the man. And I used to love curse words, and he gave me like a long message afterwards how like it's a sign of disrespect in his culture, and it was very interesting to me like how different forms of communication mean different things for other people. And I didn't realize, oh, he's also here because respect is something very important to him, and that is like I'm coming from an environment where you were like the nastiest bunch of people who kind of bonded over there, as like being the bad boys. And that was like really, what is like a leadership mistake you made in your career that you had to acknowledge and learn from, so to say?
Yeah, I think communication during times of crisis is so important. And I think that a mistake I might have made in the past was to wait until I had the right answers before saying anything. But the more you communicate, the more people will trust you. So there's a balance between, obviously you want to be tempered in your response, but don't get so wrapped up in getting the message right that you wait too long before communicating. I think that's been my biggest learning and mistakes, is just not communicating enough with the stakeholders.
Over communicate.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a famous sundown rule from Bill Walton. Sam Walton, not Bill Walton, was a basketball player. Sam Walton. It was like any kind of business inquiry needs to be answered by the end of the day, even if it's just saying like I won't be able to be getting back at you by the end of the day in a way. And it's like, it's very
Yeah.
interesting that people treat this as a sign of disrespect, even though you may be overwhelmed, but it's just people feel like, oh, I'm not important enough to this person that he
Exactly.
makes the time. A belief that have been central to your success.
Something about resiliency, right? So this idea of getting knocked down and getting back up again, but really embodying that, I think has been important for me. I think that comes from, who knows, but running track in high school. So oftentimes you're just so far behind. I was running middle distance, and you'd see but giving up was never an option. You can't give up on a race, for example, no matter how far behind you are, how disappointed you are, how quite tired you are. So this resilience that I gained from being a middle distance runner, I think, and then trying many different things in college and life, like trying so many different routes and facing failure and understanding that failure is a part of the process and not taking it emotionally and actually celebrating failures, either maybe not in real time, but eventually in the future, looking back and saying, because of that failure, I learned this. Because of that failure, like being able to recognize the opportunity in crisis and in failure is like so pivotal.
I don't feel like entrepreneurs do a good job at even recognizing or acknowledging themselves for that. Just embarking on an adventure or playing a game where the outcome is unknown is something to be proud of by themselves. So many people don't take any risk of the entirety of their life and just do unadventurous pursuits for their whole life. So I think sometimes, at least this was helpful to me to, when you're in those moments, that at least you showed up. And as a former basketball player, it was always very strange when you got your ass kicked in front of people, and after the first quarter, it was clear you had no shot.
Yeah.
And you were like 40 minutes more into being humiliated in front of other people.
No.
And it was always very interesting how certain people took it. And that class also reveals themselves in times where it's not cool to be you. But it's like, I always had the most respect for people who played hard at the very end, even though we were losing, and not those. It was often the star players who just left the building or something.
Yeah.
Because they were like big divas or something.
There's something to be said about, continuing no matter what.
How do you work with star players in a business sense?
I mean, you meet them where they are. I think that makes sense. I wouldn't try to change someone's disposition, but try to understand who they are and understand how you can modify your research style, your leadership style to get the best out of them. It's the same thing. Like, be adaptable. Don't take it personally. Don't trash talk them. Like, they might be being a diva, but that doesn't change the task at hand. So again, not taking it personally, not getting too wrapped up in the emotion of it, and saying, meeting them where they are, understanding that they have their disposition. Cool. Work around it. Address it if you need to, but probably just work around it. It works.
What makes your best friend your best friend? I know you have many best friends, but like one person that may be good for an example of what's important to Anita.
I appreciate friends who are there for you without question, right? So the kind of friend who will always pick up if you call, because none of us make calls anymore. But if you do call, that means it's important. The type of person who will pick up if you call and that you can rely on if it really is a crisis. And also the first person you think to call or text when you have great news too. So it's not just about crises, but like, just who do you naturally gravitate towards truly without thinking about anything else? Who do you call first when you get out of an amazing experience, or who do you text or voice note first? So a lot of friends I say fit that category.
Yeah, it's I used to grow up in some parts of my life very poor, but I was very rich in friends. I don't know why, but it's like it's about like the absence of resources, particularly for guys, fosters true camaraderie and brotherhood to some degree. And I had one guy where I was in trouble. I got like some guys at school like really beat my ass, and I just like asked him for a favor. You need to come with me right now. We need to. And the first thing that he said, like, we take in the car, right? And it was like, there was no question about it. And I love these people who show up when you need them most, maybe for more nobler purposes than
Yeah.
taking revenge on your enemies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What are you working on right now, if it's not a top secret? I know you always engage in like wonderful, meaningful ventures. What keeps you up at night at the moment?
Yeah, currently my co-founder and I are in the middle of launching our company Myco Clinic.
Myco Clinic.
Yeah, so Myco Clinic
How do you
is
spell that?
MYCO space clinic, CLINIC. And Myco Clinic is a treatment platform for people suffering from illness caused by mold in their environment. So mold exists in residential areas, in offices and gyms and cars, but many people don't realize is that it can have a massive detrimental effect on your health. And the essentially the mode of action is that mold exists and it emits these mycotoxins. And these mycotoxins are smaller than even filters can typically capture. And these mycotoxins enter our body and are persistent. And the net effect of these mycotoxins is that they wear down your immune system over time in different ways. And so the effects of mold illness can be broad. And this is one reason why it's underdocumented, because it's the symptom set is significantly broad, but it's all researched and well researched. And so our treatment platform is a functional medicine, personalized medicine approach to treating mold illness. And we're using functional labs. We have a blood mycotoxin immune test that looks at your blood and can tell us exactly how your immune system is reacting to your environment. And then our algorithm generates a personalized approach to treating your specific ailment and connects you with specific doctors that we have vetted that know how to treat your condition. And we're leveraging telemedicine. We're keeping costs very, very low for patients because, especially in the US, healthcare is expensive. And we're giving them, your patients, direct access to the doctors so that they can go on this treatment journey with our doctors. Our methodology is based on the teachings of researcher Dr. Andrew Campbell, who's published hundreds of research papers on this topic. Everything we're doing is science-backed, data-backed. We're super excited about this. And as we were building this company, the number of people who we encounter who have been affected or loved ones have been significantly affected with mold illness is just immense. Every day I'm speaking to people about this. And the strange thing is that doctors don't seem to know how to treat it. We've tried. Both my co-founder and I both have been affected by mold. We've had family members be affected. And we know how to navigate the healthcare system. It's not our first time. We're both health conscious. We both could not effectively get treated by any doctor or specialist we went to. And we realized this is the case. It just seems like it's not taught. The methodology is not taught in medical school yet. It's not common practice yet. And so this treatment platform we're super excited about it. And we're rolling out in our first states this year, before the end of the year. We have our patients lined up, and we are going to be expanding as much as possible over 2026.
How do you take the courage to take such a big one? How many people do you think suffer worldwide from this?
It's such an immense question. I couldn't accurately give you that number because it's just too much. But I'll say that
it's a huge number, right?
Yes, because
so it's like
the issue is, just to put a fine point in it, we believe that mold itself is responsible for a significant percentage of chronic illness. So chronic illness is a broad category, from diabetes to asthma to cancer. Like, it's a big category. And because the mycotoxins emitted by the mold affects immune systems, the immune system is our protection from chronic illness. All the things you can think of that are long-term diabetes, cancers, mental health is all affected by our immune system. So if you have something in your environment, which mold is so often not seen, or if it's seen, it does not register how important and dangerous it is, it's constantly affecting your immune system. And so the potential impact is immense. If we can eliminate even 5% of chronic illness. And the treatment, from what we believe, and the protocol can be curative. It's one of those things where we're not just identifying this problem and saying, deal with it. The methodology that we've identified is meant to actually address the core cause of the inflammation and the immune dysfunction and then fix it. So this is what, so immense. One stat is that 50 million US homes during the last census showed signs of visible mold. People report, and this is just 50 million homes identified visible mold in their home, right? So that's households of people. That's visible mold, where we know that such a high proportion of mold is not visible. And just because you can't see it doesn't mean that it's not affecting you, because from what we understand, mycotoxins can permeate through walls. So if you have mold behind your wall, the mycotoxins can be going through. And the thing about
So even my neighbor, for instance, has mold like crazy.
Yes.
I'm still.
Yes. And the thing about mold, if you know anything about mold, which I think we all kind of intuitively do, it's so resilient. It knows that mold can grow on bread in your refrigerator. So mold, it's very adaptable.
What is mold?
It's a creature. It's one of the many different creatures that live on the planet.
Sounds alien almost. Really.
It's not alien. I mean, it's just we've got many different.
What do you think the without going conspiracy theory, Daniel? Why do you think the traditional healthcare apparatus isn't doing anything about it?
So we've gone through this a lot, because when we finally, my co-founder and I, started really working on this issue, because we both realized there's a problem, and we tried to figure out where we wanted to tackle. So our first intuition was to go into just diagnosing it, because it's super underdiagnosed. But then we realized that we could have a better impact with treatment. But I started thinking, how is it possible? Like the science is science, right? So it's not like it's necessarily new science, but it's one of those things where mold is so pervasive. A couple of things are happening. First of all, the toxic mold issue is becoming more prevalent because we're spending more time indoors as human beings in terms of the arc of human history. And we're building our homes more airtight. The materials we're building with, in a lot of scenarios, we're building airtight homes with air conditioning systems. So that's good for keeping your home cool, but if there's a leak in your wall, suddenly there's no ventilation. Whereas when homes were all made of mud, if you go back in the days, there's just more circulation.
So the absence of airflow also is one of the
part of it. Like I'm oversimplifying, but the building materials and the building conditions that we have now in modern society are fostering more mold.
That's quite interesting how how everything seems to be connected to each other. Like a trend in architecture, suddenly, like the whole world is sick. It's like so strange.
And also the way that many more of us are professional service workers, or whatever we're doing involves being inside for such a longer proportion of the day than when we were farmers and agricultural. So that's just overarching trend. But I think another concern is that modern medicine today is designed to address the symptoms. Always. You go to your doctor, Western medicine says, what's wrong with you? Which is, they don't even say that. They say, what symptoms do you want us to treat today? So since mold causes so many different types of symptoms, and also you don't know that it's being caused by mold, right? So you go into the doctor, you say you've got headaches, mood issues. Like, one thing people don't realize is that mold can cause serious cognitive issues. I didn't know this myself. Like, if you asked me 3 years ago what issues mold can cause, I would say probably just nasal, topical. Like, I wouldn't even imagine, and I have a medical background, we'll say. So I didn't have this idea, but it can cause significant cognitive change, brain fog, signs of early dementia in people in their 30s. And not only have I read about this, I've seen it. I know people personally who, healthy, mid-30s, men and women who I know personally, I've watched their cognitive decline as they lived in mold environments. I've seen it. And that's why, and then there's studies of it. And the thing is, when you go to your doctor, you don't say, hey, doctor, I'm sick with mold. You say, hey, doc, I can't concentrate anymore, and I feel stressed out, and I'm sleepy all the time. So the doctor gives you stimulants or mood stabilizers. How is the doctor is not trained to ask you about your environment. So I don't think it's a conspiracy. It's just Doctors are there, especially in the West. They have 15 minutes with you. They're going to treat your symptoms, and the symptoms are broad, and they can continuously send you away. How are they going to know?
Yes, like for a while I dreamed of like reinventing the psychotic system, but then learned it's like not kind of my ministry to go after. The mental health industry is equally, if not more, corrupted. Also, like when you have psychological symptoms, like you get pills or you get diagnosed for something with a particular disease, and nobody really cares about the roots. For instance, if my business is dying, like it is actually quite normal for me to have depressive symptoms because it's the very meaning of my life that is escaping my hands. And I feel like there's, why do you think it is that we're so ignorant in regards to the root causes of problems in regards to our society?
Well, I can't make comments on it's just the way humans are evolving. You know, we're still just learning. So much of it we're just learning in the past years. I would say specifically with the mold issue, even the diagnostics that really allow us to understand it are less than 5 years old, right?
Okay.
So I think we can, depending on what part of it we're talking about, we're still learning as a society. You know, modern medicine is only a couple hundred years old. It's evolving. So I just think that we're figuring it out. I wouldn't say there's an overarching per se.
You're from the United States. It's also very interesting. Like, what's that like for you as a neutral, not neutral, but an observer, like a vagabond who's seen many countries? I'm right now at the crossroads in regards to, as a founder, where do I go? The United States? Do I stay in Berlin? To go to the Emirates? What do you feel in regards to the current entrepreneurial climate in the world?
So it's very dependent on your industry. I would say the U.S. as of recording still has we have a lot of money compared to, we'll say there's a lot of investment potential in the U.S. compared to Europe, I will say, right? Broadly, if we're just being very broad. But ultimately, it's not about going where the money is. It's about going where you, as a founder, especially early stage, are the best. Where are you at your best? So being at your best, does that mean that you're not worried? Are you free from concern about personal finance? That's a big, major drop-off for founders, is their inability to successfully maintain their lifestyle while they're in this uncertain phase. So potentially the US, where we don't have the social safety net that European nations do, for example, might not be the best place for you unless you have a nest egg, right? And there's many different comparisons, but where are you as a founder in your best? Where do you have the best network that can be helpful if networking is part of what you need to do? Where do you feel most comfortable with the language? So where can you be? Even the food that you eat on a daily basis, for example, that might outweigh your ability to travel to other places. There might be the most money, there might be more money in UAE right now, but can you personally survive there as a founder? Do you have the base of the network or whatever it's needed to be there? If you don't, then don't go there. If you do, maybe you should consider it.
If you would, somebody wants to raise money, what advice would you give them? First time raisers.
Well, make sure you have you cross your T's and dot your I's. First of all, in terms of like what are you bringing to the table? So don't raise capital just because. Raise capital when you're ready, when you really have something good to bring. So that's one part of it. And practice, so much practice, right? So it takes a while to formulate your pitch and to understand how, like, the storytelling aspect is so important. So like I would spend the most time on that, and keep on refining it until everyone you talk to about it is excited about it, and also be able to know your pitch in such a way that you can give it at any point, because you're gonna have to do it. Like short
How do you give a pitch?
Just being able to speak comfortably and confidently about and knowledgeably about your topic. That's it. And so it's not even it becomes part of your lexicon. So it's not a pitch anymore when it is your life. That's the thing. If you have to turn into some moment of giving your pitch, then you're not ready yet. It should flow effortlessly out of you because you've practiced it so much.
Do you remember that you gave me advice after I spoke to my first venture capitalist ever?
No.
I think his name was Vincent or something. And it was like, I didn't even have a pitch deck, and I just was dreaming of building this platform where you can talk to the dead. And at that time, I just said, like, no, it's just a chemistry call. I'm just gonna break bread and chat with this guy. And then I told you, you mentioned to me, everything is a pitch, Daniel, at this stage.
Yeah, everything's a pitch.
And it was very, very interesting to me because I had a complete unawareness of the industry and wasn't even aware that there may not be limited amounts of calls that I may have with this guy. Anyway, how do you, what would you give somebody for advice in regards to the mindset it needs to go into a room where there actually is an opportunity?
You know,
when it's showtime.
I wouldn't say, you know, I would almost not even differentiate, because once you differentiate, you might be setting yourself up for a weird moment. And I would say, if you live, if it's your baby, if you live it and you know it, and again, this is where the practice comes in. So at first you're just practicing it, but eventually you're just there to tell them about what you're passionate about. And then it flows effortlessly. So you should have that same energy and fervor when you're talking to a friend, a person at a party, as these investors, but it should be the same level, right? Because everything's a pitch. So going into a room with the top investors in the world, it's the same as going into a coffee chat with a friend of a friend when you're at that point, when you're actually raising. You're constantly, there's no difference, actually, I would say. Being prepared, of course, but you have to always be prepared. And there's nothing, I don't think there's any difference walking into a room with the top VCs in the world versus when you're at that stage. You should always be on, and on should be effortless, right? You're not learning your lines. You know your lines because you are your lines, and you're not reciting lines. You're just describing the truth. It's all truth, right? So there's no nervousness. Wow, how can you be nervous when you're talking about your baby, if your company is your baby, right? And you know your baby back and forth. So if you're walking into a room nervous, then maybe you're not, I shouldn't say that, but then maybe you're missing something. Like, it should be effortless. You're just telling them about what you're passionate about.
Entrepreneurial secrets nobody tells you about.
Well, if they're secrets, then no one would have told you about it.
No, because I'm mentioning this because for me, I feel there's stuff you can get on the internet, but then at least for me, it was like when you're in the real arena, it's like, people tell you to behave in this manner, but this is how it's actually done.
Oh, well, I don't know. I wouldn't say that I've read much about how to be an entrepreneur, so I'm not sure what they're telling you. But probably something about resilience again. It's the most important thing.
Any dark psychology tactic you've come across that have been useful for you in your venture?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't have time or bandwidth for anything that's not just like, that's the thing, like true honesty, right, is like the only way I can operate morally, but also I don't have like the brain power to do anything that's less than exactly what is truthful and open, because everything else seems more difficult, and I can't keep track.
You're futurist also. What are some predictions you have for the next decade?
Well, as we push this frontier forward with AI, automation, robotics, the nature of work is going to change. And in-person experiences, there's going to be a higher premium on that. I do think so many jobs and modes of operating are going to fall away. So there's going to be a very large change in the landscape of what we do. So I do think there'll be a rise, hopefully, in the premium people pay and are willing to invest in in-person experiences and everything, from whether it's the arts or more tactical things. Yeah, just automation. It's so many jobs are going to just change and not exist. So I don't know how society is going to handle that, societies that are able to quickly shore that up are going to do well, and societies that let the scarcity of jobs dictate the way the future runs, they're not going to do well. That's what I'm going to say. So I think the way societies, we'll say countries, we'll break down by countries, the way countries deal with this rapid shift in the nature of labor is going to determine which countries survive this.
Such an interesting filter in regards to also, like, for me, for instance, like, where do I pick to locate my startup?
Yeah.
Is like, where is the community learning and adapting the fastest? One of the things many people warn me about starting a business in Germany because it seems to be a little bit slow in regards to all the legislations and paperwork you have to bypass. We have a global reputation of being bureaucracy.
Yes, I've experienced that. But that said, I do think there's something that I'll predict that Germany will safeguard jobs, the human aspect, better than the US, for example. I don't know if I can make that prediction, but because things move so slowly here, I don't think that technology is going to steamroll the jobs away in a way that it might happen in other environments much more quickly. So that's one benefit. I do think that the society is protecting general humans better than potentially the US if we're going to do a side-by-side comparison, but it's complex. It's very complex.
If you would be giving a speech to the current leadership in the United States, it seems that you guys are working out your own issues right now also. What would be the speech be about?
Well, I mean, I would love to see so much more focus on the issue I just mentioned. This is a major externality that is not getting enough attention. Is like, this is here already, and we don't have guardrails. We're not protecting any small businesses. We're just like not doing the basic society things to prevent a very quick overhaul in the way we do things. So if we could focus a bit more on that, as opposed to these polarizing issues of like gender politics, I think there's so much distraction and bullshit that is focused on by our current administration and our news media. I mean, it's not just it's interesting. I do believe that social media, which is the media now, affects the way our government is run and vice versa. And it's all about attention and polarization, which is like this emotional thing that we just talked about. When it's great that everyone has emotions and feelings about the way things should be, but can we look at the big elephant in the room, which is this externality? This is the real crisis, right? So if you're running a business and your business is the country, everyone's too busy fighting and feeling emotions about the other, like literally feeling emotions about this party, that party, all these different figures, these different ways of living. Such small potatoes compared to this big looming externality, which is automation, which is like I believe the next evolution of life on this earth, if we're going to be really broad about it. We've had single cell organisms and molds and things like that, and animal kingdom, human beings, industrial revolution. The next iteration, if we look in the not too distant future, is this hybrid world or a future world of fully automated things, whether we're included in it or not, whether humans are included in it or not. But like, that's what's super intelligence. That's the big thing. And we're so busy worried about in America, different parties and different types of people and this and that. Like, it's so small compared to the externality of super intelligence, which is looming. And super intelligence, if you look into it, and people are predicting it's another league. It's another evolution of life on this planet. We're not ready for it. We're too busy squabbling over pieces of corn on the ground like little mice. And meanwhile, there's something bigger looming. So yes, can we focus on any of that? And we're not. We don't have any.
I love this. It's these my last podcast guest talked about the creation of a unifying vision. And one of the things that I'm always interested when I was working as a counselor with people, helping them to get their life in order, was we would always do a blueprint for where they want to go and making a vision. But what they always needed to get along was like a hell scenario that was chasing them if they would not get their act together.
Yeah.
And for me, a strange book, for instance, that really helped me to get focused was, have you read Three Body Problem?
No, but I've heard much
are
about it.
really good. And there's like one thesis that scared the shit out of me is this idea that humanity at some point discovers that the cosmos is hostile, and that it's like a dark forest where every species that adventures in the universe keeps very private, because the moment it gets discovered, it gets attacked by some other things in a way.
Oh.
And it's like, and it was very interesting to me. It's like unless we have figured out where we with Earth are moving and have mapped this great universe, I was like, maybe we should work as hard as we can on preparing also for unknown threats that we haven't even encountered yet.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
Very interesting. I would like to move on with the to the last part of the interview, and I call it Alexandrian questionnaire. It's a couple of questions that I feel mean a lot to me, and that you can just answer intuitively. And then we are, I think, done with the interview, because I know you have a. How many hours do you take until you're in Amsterdam?
It's a long trip,
It's
long journey ahead.
it's a long trip. Okay. What's your favorite question?
What are you excited for today? I like when people ask me that.
Your favorite word?
Exuberance.
What does it mean?
Just an abundance of energy, positive energy, and
Your least favorite word?
can't.
A book that changed your life?
Ethical slut.
What's it about?
Polyamory.
Interesting, interesting. What did you learn from it, and what do you think other people can take away from
It's
the book?
vocabulary for thinking about relationships in general, whether it's monogamous or non-monogamous. Just, I think, just to not get too deep in it, we all assume that relationships are done a certain way because that's the human nature, and none of it's true. Human beings have done relationships, male, female, all the things differently through the course of time. And this modern framework of man marries woman, has children, like that's only hundreds of years old if as a commonplace. There's been so many different ways of people doing things. And there's no,
There we go.
the book taught me that there's, adults have flexibility in how they can design their relationships. And it's like being a fish outside of water. You just assume that we have to be a certain way because that's the way television tells you to do things, and it's just like not. And it also gives a bit of the history of why society is based the way it is, and it's not because it's the best way for human procreation at all. It was about control, control of women for the most part, and the whole thing. This whole vocabulary that we in Western society use to talk about love and relationships originates from a sense of control and land property management. So like there's history there that helps people give a different perspective into it.
Very interesting.
Read the book. It's good.
A quote you strive to live by?
I'd rather die enormous than live dormant. It's Jay-Z. And I discovered that quote or something when I was in high school, and I really liked that because, yeah.
I love that.
Go big or go home, right?
Yeah, Nietzsche once said, I can't think of any nobler life purpose than to perish in the pursuit of the impossible.
Ooh.
I like this fact of like, even like if you're failing, like at least you went after it, you know?
Yeah, you're doing it.
If you could resurrect 3 human beings from history to add to your personal board of advisors, who would they be and what would you ask them?
I don't have this. I don't know. I don't have this romanticism of history and the dead so much. I haven't thought about this question.
Or living people, for instance.
Yeah. So living. I would love Arnold Schwarzenegger. I love. That's I only have one. Like I know there's other people, but like intuitively I haven't thought about this question a lot. But I know one person that I would love to. Not that I'm a fan of Arnold, but I just really, from what I understand of what he's done, he embodies his resilience. He's multifaceted. So many successful people pick one lane and they're great at that, but he's excelled in different lanes. He's an adventurer in terms of, born in Austria, but then forged a new life in another country there. There's something about that mindset that I think resonates with me specifically. I know there are other people, but that's just the person that I can think of.
Well, when you take Arnold, you have you have Conan the Barbarian, you have Terminator, you have the Governor, you have the bodybuilder.
The bodybuilder, yeah. And it's seen, and I don't know him, but in terms of the disposition, he's there. He embodies presence. There's humility. There's just something about Arnold shows up. Whenever I've ever encountered Arnold, there's a showing up.
What would you ask him if I get him on a podcast and I have one question, I say, this is from Anita.
What are you working on next? He's the kind of person where I would not be surprised if he were to have another iteration. And that's cool. So he's someone, it seems, who's not satisfied with just reaching the top of one realm and then being successful and resting on it, loves new challenges. So I wouldn't be surprised if Arnold were working on something new, even though he's getting there older and et cetera. So
it's a leader that comes to your mind when you think of the word punchable.
I can't think of anybody. I don't know. I'm not into physical violence. Like, don't hit anybody. It's like, try not to hit anybody. It's not good.
If you can send a video message to all of the world's leaders today, what would it say?
Focus on AI. Like, stop it. It's like, focus. Superintelligence is coming. So whatever else you're dealing with, like, I don't know. This is it. Yes, focus on this. And not just like learn about it. Don't just hire some aides. Like, devote a significant portion of every day figuring out how you're going to shore your economy up and your people and get them ready for the next, because as a leader, that's your job. Your job is not to, it's to steer the ship, right? We're going into what I believe is going to be a different type of turbulence that none of us are prepared for. So what are you doing every day to prepare your people, your society, your infrastructure for the major shift that is already starting? And do that continuously. And everything else, I don't know, but like, fix this, please, or address this, please. Thank you.
If you would receive through a miracle an advisory letter from all of your ancestors, what do you think it would say?
Something along the lines of don't be so hard on yourself, or something that would give me perspective. Yeah.
Lots of interesting graveyards here in Berlin too, and I went to one today. If your grave would be equipped with an AI avatar of yours, what would be the message that you would choose to immortalize for the future?
Recognize the opportunity in crisis. Because the crisis is one thing that's always a part of human nature. The human existence is suffering. We're going to suffer. It's going to be part of it. Hopefully less and less, but who knows? So yeah, recognize the opportunity. If the AI takes over, if whatever major thing happens that's off, when more wars, recognize the opportunity. Try to keep the vibes high. I know that's a bit flippant, but if you're similar to Burning Man or any smaller crises, like shit is hitting the fan, can you keep the vibes high, right? Like within realm, can you keep the morale high while being productive without being delusional? Can you recognize the opportunity? Once the immediate threat is down, is there an opportunity for you to fix or to build? So recognize the opportunity in crisis, and if you can, keep the vibes high, because your demeanor affects the demeanor of everyone around you, and a better demeanor means a better outcome typically.
2 questions, then we are done. The original question from this is, what do you think happens after we die? But I know that you're an adventurer also in the spiritual sense, and you've made some unique discoveries maybe on some of your trips. Anything you discovered there that would be worth sharing to other people in regards to our perception, or when you went beyond the limits of the ordinary for us?
I don't know. I think times of, I don't know what happens when we die, etc. I feel that the more I live, the more I understand or embody this idea that we are all somehow one. It just feels right. And I've never been taught that, but I've grown to know that intuitively. So this otherness you feel with other people, like strangers on the street, deep down, in some way, without me getting too deep, they're also you, or we're all each other somehow. And so once you recognize that, that's why I can have this genuine interest in strangers, because I'm interested in learning more about them, because somehow I'm learning about myself. And so there's some oneness that I can't articulate very well right now, but that feels right. I would put my money on somehow when we die, we go back more solidly into this oneness and maybe we come back. I don't know. But yeah.
Last question. Post-mortem, you meet your creator.
Mm-hmm.
If something like this exists, you guys would sit down maybe on a comfortable couch like this and watch your personal highlight reel.
Yeah.
What would be a moment that you guys would be particularly proud of, where you feel the best of Anita manifested herself?
I don't know. I'd say hopefully the past 10 years and the next 40 years, like the arc. Yeah, I would like to think that all of this is leading up to something bigger and better, and that it should continue until I'm no longer around. That's optimistically.
Working towards continuity, beautiful. For the people who are listening to this, you are, I love Don Quixotean characters who go up against impossible problems to solve in a way. How can we help you? Where can we find you? And what is something the listener can do to support you on your mission?
Yeah, so this mold project, so Michael Clinic, is something that we're super excited about, and we feel we have the potential to really change the world with this one. So if you or anyone you know suspects that they might be dealing with mold, you might be dealing with mold issues, contact us, because beyond any sort of business aspect of it, we've amassed, with my co-founder and I, and then as we bring on our team, a significant knowledge base, and like we just have it. And so it's such a complex issue, from how do you deal with mold in your home to then eventually how do you deal with it in your body, and then aftercare. So reaching out to us, especially in this early stage, it's helpful for us as we get to know our potential customer and our community, but also we have so many resources to share. And we are now currently about to begin accepting patients in the state of Florida, and we'll be rolling out in different states soon. But if you know anybody specifically in Florida who's dealing with mold issues, but at this point, if you or anyone you know thinks you might be dealing with mold issues, contact us.
How can we contact you guys?
So we are, our website is mycoclinic.org, mycoclinic.org. We're on social media at mycoclinic, Instagram and Facebook. But yeah, mycoclinic.org is the hub for us. Yeah, reach out.
And for where can people find you personally who want to connect with you on that level?
Sure. I'm most active on Instagram. That's a place where a lot of my different worlds collide. I'm at Anita_Angelica and at Cryptonita_. So Instagram is one good way to reach me. Anita at mycoclinic.org. But essentially, if you search on the internet for my first and middle name, you're going to find me. Anita Angelica, LinkedIn. I'm there. I'm online.
Excellent. Thanks so much for showing up today, even though you have such a hectic day behind you and night in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
It was an honor and a privilege to learn from you some things that I personally need to internalize and unpack, particularly about not being so damn emotional all the time.
Yeah.
For everybody who listened, follow Anita. She's one of the finest entrepreneurs I've ever met in my life, and a true unicorn. And she is only going to continue to do great things for us. So help her wherever you can. And thanks so much for listening, and see you in the next episode.
Thank you.